What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. Hope everybody's doing really well. Grab your coffees. Look at this guy. Look at how dangerous he looks. Look at the lightning in his eyes. That thumbnail was a lot of fun to make. We're going to talk about a build that I think in the last video I said I wasn't going to talk about a build like this, but Hero actually was testing this on the dummies and recommended this to me, this Grease Lightning build that we're going to try out. So let's talk about what's going on here, because this build is very different from any other Enhancement Shaman build that I have tried. I do have dungeon footage of me trying it in a dungeon, and it actually did fine. It wasn't that bad at all. My item level right now is only 370, basically. I think I just got a piece of gear from the dungeon, so it was actually lower in the dungeon. But we did about 33k overall, which is, like, not bad at all for this item level. So what's going on with this build? Well, it's an incredibly passive build, and it essentially just centers around Stormstrike, but we're also getting the Thorim's Invocation. So this is the Grease Lightning Thorim's Invocation build that we're looking at here. We don't have Primordial Wave. We don't even have Lava Lash. We don't have Hailstorm. Don't have Fire Nova. We don't have Ice Strike. We don't have LE Blast. No Prime Wave. Like, we're just missing everything. But that's okay. It still actually ends up working as a very passive build that just centers entirely around Stormstrike. You just want to press this button, and everything else in the talent tree here enables you to press this button more. The primary way that it enables you to do that is because of Legacy. Legacy, of course, when you consume 10 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon, you reset the cooldown on Stormstrike. The idea with this build, here's the whole idea. You press Stormstrike, it triggers Ascendance from Deeply Rooted. Then you're pressing Wind Strike over and over and over again, and because of Thorim's, it consumes your Maelstrom Weapon stacks and launches a Lightning Bolt or a Chain Lightning at the enemy. Okay? That's what ends up happening. You're generating more Maelstrom Weapon stacks when you're in Ascendance. Your Wolves are generating Maelstrom Weapon stacks for you. You're generating extra Maelstrom Weapon stacks because of Elemental Assault, which your Stormstrike is triggering, of course. And in your Doomwind's window, you're going to press Sundering and Crash Lightning, and they will trigger Wind Fury like crazy, and that's going to generate more Maelstrom Weapon stacks for you. So the absolute, like, golden ideal scenario would be if you had a situation where your Deeply Rooted Elements procced, and you were in the Doomwind's window with all your Wind Fury stuff going off, and you would just be doing Giga Chad damage. Now, I think I have a moment in the dungeon that's kind of like that, so it's not that it doesn't happen at all. Let me look at how many times Ascendance actually procced in the dungeon. Oh, it's not going to show me, of course. Yep, never mind. Can't even look at that. It's bugged right now. Good stuff. Oh, we'll look at that at another time. We'll show it on the testing images. But that's the core of the idea of this build, guys, is that there's no Lava Lash, there's no extra buttons at all. You're just basically pressing Stormstrike. And let me show you what it looks like. Oh, Pig's going to take some damage here. All right. Let me show you what it looks like here. Basically, you want to make sure your Wolves are up all the time. The big thing with the Wolves is that when they're in their normal form here, so we're taking Alpha Wolf, which makes them do more AOE damage when you press Crash Lightning and Chain Lightning. We're getting no Elemental Spirits buff. These regular Wolves give you 15% more physical damage each, and there's two of them, of course. You get 30% more phys damage, which is your Stormstrike, your auto attacks, your Wolves auto attacks, your Wolves Alpha Wolf proc. That does physical damage as well. Oh, got another sub there. This also does physical damage, okay? So, Doomwinds and Wind Fury damage is physical. Sundering is physical. There's a lot of physical damage here. Your Wind Strikes are all physical when you proc Deeply Rooted Elements. So, you want your dogs up all the time. You want to make sure that they're up and they're doing damage. Here's what the AoE rotation kind of looks like. I'll talk about the single target rotation in a second. So, make sure that you've got your buffs on, of course. And we're going to put Wind Fury down. Make sure you have Wind Fury Totem down. You're going to start with your dogs. And then we're going to go into our Doomwind's window with Crash Lightning and Sundering, okay? So we go dogs into Doomwind's here. Here we go. Crash Lightning, Sundering. And we're off. Okay? We're going to use our Spender there. Now, if we get a proc here, obviously we're off to the races. We'll have to see if we end up getting one off of our Stormstrike. That would be pretty cool. But you're basically just rotating through your Stormstrike ability. Stormstrike, there, our dogs are back already. Stormstrike, Crash Lightning, Chain Lightning. Your Chain Lightning will eventually give you back your Storm Strike, right now it'll give it back to us. There we go, because of Legacy of the Frost Witch, right? So make sure that you're rotating through these spells properly and pressing Storm Strike as much as you can. Now, our dogs are going to be back again. That's how fast you get your dogs back with this build. And we haven't even had a proc on Ascendance yet. So sometimes you can get unlucky like this, and that's okay. You're still doing decent damage. Like, we're doing 76k AOE damage here, which is actually not too bad. Now, we have to fill a GCD right there. I've only had to fill basically one GCD. There's one more GCD I got to fill on an AOE rotation. The AOE rotation is really solid for that reason. You don't really have to fill too many GCDs, which is awesome. So, yeah, that feels really good. Now, we're kind of getting criminally unlucky here, of course. Every time I go to test this, I'm going to not have Ascendance proc one more time. But there we go. We got it to go. So there, I'm pressing my Wind Strike, and it's consuming my Chain Lightning. So I don't have to press Chain Lightning. See how much our damage just spiked right there? Chain Lightning's it's bugging out really hard there. But that's how good that is. When you get the actual ability to proc, it's really crazy. Now, our Doom Winds is back. Let's press Doom Winds plus Sundering. And we're doing crazy damage here. Getting so many resets on Storm Strike. Our dogs are back again. Keep your dogs up because they will do lots of extra damage for you. And they'll give you 30% more Fizz damage. So that's how the build works. Again, we're not getting very lucky here with the procs, unfortunately. But that's just the way it goes. Even with that, we had one proc on Ascendance. It did 162,000 damage. Just the proc of Ascendance itself. Wind Fury attacks way up there. Crash Lightning, Chain Lightning are way up there, of course. You're just rotating through Crash Lightning, Chain Lightning, and Storm Strike. Each one of them buffs the other one, right? Your Crash Lightning buffs the damage of your next Storm Strike. Your Chain Lightning is very important. It reduces the cooldown on Crash Lightning, and it will give you back your Storm Strike because of Legacy, right? So Chain Lightning is really important to be hitting. I mean, any spender is really important to hit because it's going to get you back your cooldown on Storm Strike because of Legacy. But in particular with the AoE rotation, it's actually really, really good because it ends up giving you your Crash Lightning back as well. That's just baked into the ability. That's what Chain Lightning ends up doing. Each target hit by Chain Lightning reduces the cooldown on Crash Lightning, right? And then Crash Lightning buffs Storm Strike, and then Storm Strike, of course, has a chance to give you Ascendance. That's the whole build. Now, let's look at single target really quick. I have added in Lightning Lasso, actually, into this build, which might be really strange. I know nobody ever takes this, but there is a potential few moments in single target where Lightning Lasso might actually be good, and I need to keep experimenting with this. The single target rotation isn't really set in stone yet, but it's an interesting idea. If you think about how single target works on boss fights, generally speaking, you're not actually going to be have like a free GCD because you're going to be lusting on like almost every boss fight in Mythic Plus, right? So again, we're talking specifically about Mythic Plus here. So let's actually blow Lust here, and I'll show you what it feels like on the rotation. And we might have to use Lightning Lasso. We might not actually have to. But again, same rotation. Started with Wolves into Lust. We're going to Storm Strike first. Then we do Sundering. Okay. With our Doom Winds, of course. We're hoping to get a proc on Ascendance. We have a free GCD right now. I'm going to do this until Storm Strike comes back. There. Now I'm going to press Storm Strike. Now we're going to go back. So that's what Lightning Lasso can help you do. It just fills in a couple of GCDs to get you back to your regular rotation. Now we're pressing Wind Strike, and it's consuming our lightning bolts for us, which is awesome. And the cool thing about it is that because of Legacy of the Frost Witch, it ends up being that when you press Wind Strike with Ascendance up, it'll, of course, consume everything and give you the Legacy buff again, which gives you more physical damage. So it's like, it's this kind of like recurring wheel that just keeps going over and over and over again, which is very, very cool. Now, we have a free GCD here. I'm going to press Flame Shock. There we go. We're going to get back to Lightning Bolt. I might have a free GCD. I have a free GCD right now. I'm pressing Lightning Lasso because that's the highest damage ability I can press until I get back to Lightning, to my regular abilities like Crash Lightning and Storm Strike. Now we're back to our regular rotation. That's how you kind of can fit in Lightning Lasso into your build as a potential. It's probably the best, highest DPS button you can use as a filler. Otherwise, I'm using Frost Shock and Flame Shock as my other fillers. That's the other thing you want to be doing. We're back into our Wolves. We got Doom Winds coming back. We're going to hold on to Sundering. Oh, no, I just used it like an idiot. Never mind. So that's not that important in single target. Okay, here we go. Doom Winds into Storm Strike. Try and get a proc here, hopefully. Reset it with Legacy. keep pressing Storm Strike, and that's the build, guys. That's how it works. So the single target rotation is a little bit strange. Oh, we got a proc there. Of course, now we're just pressing Wind Strike because it's going to consume our Lightning Bolt right there, which is really cool. And then we're back into Wolves. So, you know, only testing it in front of the dummies like right here is going to be, you know, it's going to have mixed results, right? On the AOE test there, you saw we basically got no procs on Ascendance. I tested it like 5 minutes ago before the this video started, and of course I got 3 or 4 procs, and I was doing over 100k DPS consistently. So that's just kind of what can happen sometimes. Unfortunately, that's just the way it goes when I'm trying to test these things for you guys. But just know that this is something that's very reliant on RNG. There's no two bones about it. This is really reliant on RNG, and if you don't get good RNG, this build's gonna feel kind of bad. But I did want to show that you don't have to run Primordial Wave in all of your builds, which I was kind of saying previously. I do still think Primordial Wave right now is stronger than going down the Thorim's path because of our stats, because our haste is so low. That's the primary reason why. However, that can very quickly start to change as you get gear in Dragonflight. For example, my Shadow Priest right now has almost 22% haste with my gear. So, like, my Enhancement Shaman right now, you can see right here's the Thorims going off. I'm going to press... It's just so cool that it consumes your spenders. Right now, my Enhancement Shaman has, like, 15% haste. Like, 14.5%, almost 15%. So, it's really abysmal. Like, what you want on this build is, like, 30% haste at all times. That's what you want. Then... all your ability cooldowns, including Storm Strike, will get reduced, and everything's just going to be faster, of course. So instead of a 6-second cooldown on Storm Strike, you're going to have like a 4.5-second cooldown. It'll be much quicker. So that's going to be that becomes like a really big deal. That helps to fill in the gaps whenever you have maybe those GCDs that are free, and you're like, oh, I don't want to press like Flame Shock or Frost Shock. I want to be pressing Storm Strike. And it's like, if you had way more haste, the GCD comes way down, and it allows you to just press Storm Strike over and over again. So this build, in my opinion, scales tremendously well into the future of the expansion. You're going to get more haste. You're going to get more crit, which I think would be a really good secondary to take on top of haste. Mastery is okay. It's going to actually give you a higher chance to trigger Stormbringer, which will give you Storm Strike back. So Mastery is not like completely wasted on this build by any means. But I think crit's probably the better way to go when you get those big Doom Winds plus Sundering, which is going to happen right here. Look at this. I saved my Doom Winds. I just popped Doom Winds right now, and I just popped Sundering right there, and my damage just spiked massively. So when you get those windows, if I had, 25% crit or something, it would be really outrageous how much damage you could do. So that's another thing to kind of keep in mind. But just keep in mind, your stats are going to scale into the later part of the expansion, and that's where this build is going to shine. I think later into Season 1, possibly into Season 2, once your stats have, stabilized and you have a really good amount of haste. On top of that, though, the other thing to mention is the tier set bonus. So I'll throw it up here for you. The tier set bonus is going to give you up to 10% haste for 4 seconds every single time you use a Maelstrom Weapon spender. So if you're using a 10-stack spender, you get 10% more haste for 4 seconds. And again, if you had a higher baseline haste, let's say you had 25% haste or something, you're going to get 35% haste for that 4 seconds, and you can probably chain that back to back to back to back. If you're, especially in AoE. In AoE content in Mythic Plus, you could certainly get a spender out every 4 or 5 seconds. So I would anticipate having the tier set bonus haste up almost all the time. If you're getting, if you're just playing properly, that would be how I would see that. So that's another thing that's going to help this build scale into the future of the expansion of Season 1 anyway, is that you're going to get 10% haste there from your tier set bonus. Now, the only real problems with this build, I'm going to say, are going to be single target. As I mentioned, though, you can take Lightning Lasso, which I did not take in this video footage. I was just trying the base sort of talent tree setup without Lightning Lasso just to see how it went. And, again, I think it was fine. It felt good to me. In AoE, guys, there's never a problem at all. Like, you're just constantly able to press Crash Lightning into Storm Strike, into Chain Lightning. I had to fill 1 GCD here. And then you put your Windfree Totem down again. But again, it's just like there's very few moments where you're not able to press a button where there's something for you to press. You have procs going off all the time, whether it's your spenders or Storm Strike, but in single target, there is a bit of a burden there to say, okay, what can we do to help out? Lightning Lasso is one thing you could do. I was thinking about Ice Strike, possibly. Here's a big Doom Winds moment here. Watch this. So I'm going to press Doom Winds into Sundering right here. Here comes Doom Winds. Right now into Sundering. Watch my damage. I'm doing 257k up to 445k. So that one Sundering did like 220,000 damage right there. Again, very strong. Get my wolves out, do more damage. So yeah, you could fill with Ice Strike potentially. That's what I was thinking of using as my filler. I didn't end up doing it. I ended up just trying, again, the baseline talent tree where you're just pressing Storm Strike. And you can see we're doing respectable damage here for our item level. So it's just something that can work. You'll have to fiddle with it if you want. The single target damage could be a little bit wonky, but I think I'm going to experiment a little bit more with this and see if it's possible to use something like Ice Strike, or if it's not worth it. If it's better to just have maybe Lightning Lasso to fill in those couple of GCDs that you're missing. So otherwise, guys, this build is an incredibly passive build. It's very, very passive, which can be an advantage for some people. I'm just going to skip ahead here. It can be an advantage where you don't really have to think too hard about what you're doing. You're just focusing really, really hard on the one thing that you do very well, which is pressing Storm Strike to trigger Ascendance. I actually think I have it at the beginning of this fight. Let me go back and just check. Sorry, guys. I think I have it in the previous fight, but the point is you're basically just pressing Storm Strike, and sometimes with a lot of these builds, we can add in all these extra buttons, right? You have Flame Shock with Primordial Wave. You need to spread it around with Lava Lash. Then you have to press Lightning Bolt because it's going to cleave. And then you have the Hailstorm procs. You need to press Frost Shock. And then you need to press Sundering. And then you need to get back to pressing Crash Lightning, Chain Lightning. It's like you just press like 8 different abilities in a row. And that can be really overwhelming for people. And make sure your wolves are up all the time. And make sure you put your Wind Fury totem down. And make sure you press Lust. Make sure you're proccing your trinkets if you have an unused trinket. Make sure your potions are up. Like, it's just like, holy crap, man. Sometimes with Enhancement Shaman in particular, you can get very, very, very busy. And this build in particular helps to slow everything down. And it really just gives you that very focused mindset of like, okay, I'm pressing Storm Strike. Everything I'm doing is to try and get Storm Strike back. So the only thing you have to manage with this build is your Legacy of the Frost Witch procs, which is basically like, don't use a spender if you have maximum, like if you have Storm Strike off cooldown, because your spender is going to give you your Storm Strike back. So if you're going to waste a proc there. So that's about the only big thing you have to manage is the Legacy of the Frost Witch procs. Don't mess those up, and you'll be very happy with this build. And again, it's not feeling super great right now because we don't have good haste values, but this will scale into the later parts of the expansion, later parts of Season 1, and you will get lots of extra procs on your Ascendants if you have 25-30% haste, and it feels good in a Lust window as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think this build has any legs? The Greased Lightning build with Thorim's Invocation, do you think it's good? What do you think? Do you think it's better than taking Primordial Wave? I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. I think this build is interesting. As I said before, I think it scales very well into the later parts of the expansion, and we're just going to have to see how this thing goes. We're going to have to really see how it feels as we kind of get more stats under our belt. So thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one.